All right. Shit. On to the next vid. We got. Where's it at, bro? Let me exit that out. The birth of every NBA team explained, and don't worry, bro. NBA reactions coming soon, bro. Anyway, let's get to this because I'm actually interested in this. Because I'm an NBA fan, obviously. I'm interested to to understand and learn like where they came from, each team. You know what I'm saying, and where they started at, the story behind it. So, nonetheless, let's get into it. Am I recording? All right, I am. We should be good. Let's go ahead, start.
The Celtics were founded in 1946 as part of the Basketball Association of America, one of the NBA's precursor leagues. They didn't just join basketball.
That's right, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Real NBA, not real, but older NBA fans know there was like leagues before NBA. There was like ABA, whatever that just was. You know what I'm saying? It's leagues I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? I don't even really know that. But there were leagues before the NBA. You know what I'm saying? They eventually merged with the NBA, or they all went out. You know what I'm saying, but NBA is like the main basketball league, obviously. But there were leagues before it.
History, they helped create it. Their first owner was Walter A. Brown, who basically ran all of Boston sports. He also ran the Boston Garden, which was horrifically outdated even back then. When the BAA merged with the National Basketball League, or NBL, in 1949, the Celtics officially became one of the NBA's founding teams. In 1951, they hired Red Auerbach, a coach who built the first true NBA dynasty by drafting Bill Russell in 1956. This kicked off a decade plus of dominance.
RP Bill Russell, 10 champs, bro.
The Celtics
11
won
champs,
11 championships in 13 seasons and basically turned the NBA into their own personal playground. They've never rebranded. They've always been the Celtics, but their ownership has changed hands multiple times. In the 70s, John Y. Brown, the guy who owned KFC, actually bought the team. He made some bad moves and immediately sold it for a profit. Today, they're one of the most successful franchises in sports history with 18 NBA titles and one of the most obnoxiously passionate fan bases in existence.
Tonight, I will be your weapon sommelier for this
coming
evening.
soon, bro. Don't
You
worry.
got something for me?
Existence. Chicago Bulls. The Bulls were born in 1966, making them one of the NBA's youngest iconic franchises. But they didn't become the Bulls until a certain guy from North Carolina showed up.
Michael Jordan, the GOAT. Jordan's the GOAT.
Who was the
Jordan's the GOAT over LeBron. I got that all day. I'll scream that all day, too.
only owner in franchise history that actually played basketball. Klein wanted the team to have a name that represented strength and toughness, so he went with Bulls because of Chicago's history in the meatpacking industry. For the first 20 years, weird. Okay. Then in 1984, they drafted Michael Jordan with the third pick because the Blazers thought Clyde Drexler and MJ were the same player. Whoops. By the 90s, Jordan...
How do you mistake that, bro? No, because Michael Jordan went to college, bro. Like, how do you mistake that? That's bad on the Trailblazers' part, but I mean, it explains. It explains. I'm not gonna say that. I'm just gonna say that.
Phil Jackson took over the league, winning 6 rings in 8 years and turning the Bulls into the NBA's biggest global brand. Then in 1999, owner Jerry Reinsdorf and GM Jerry Krause decided to burn it all down. Derrick Rose started their recovery, but his injuries cut all that short. Thanks to MJ, they'll always be one of the most popular franchises in the NBA. Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs have been in the NBA since 1970, but let's be real. Cleveland basketball did not matter until LeBron showed up. Their first owner was
because they had Mark Price. They had a few other. No, I think the Cavs matter. They had a few other people on there, if I'm not mistaken. I think they have. Actually, I might be capping, bro. It might have not mattered until LeBron got there. I'm not gonna lie. Damn, bro.
Maletti. They were horrendous at first, winning just 15 games in their debut season and going 5 straight years without a winning record. In the late 80s, they built a pretty good team, but Michael Jordan ended them repeatedly in the playoffs. Then in 2003, they won the draft lottery and picked LeBron James.
Okay.
Immediately, the Cavs went from irrelevant to must-watch.
I'll give him
LeBron
that.
would end up bringing them their only championship in 2016 during his second stint.
No, okay, that was the only championship. Okay, I'll give him that. Then LeBron, it wasn't relevant till LeBron stepped on the scene.
They're finally building something new without LeBron. Charlotte Hornets, team that was born, killed, resurrected, renamed, and rebranded multiple times. Founded in 1988 as an expansion team under the ownership of George Shinn, a businessman who quickly became hated by the entire city. Their original name almost became the Spirit or the Knights, but Hornets won out. In the 90s, they became one of the most exciting teams in the NBA, with Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, and Muggsy Bogues. But then Shinn relocated the team to New Orleans in 2002, leaving Charlotte without a team for only 2 years before the NBA gave them a new one in 2004, the Charlotte Bobcats. The Bobcats were a complete disaster. In 2014, when the New Orleans Hornets rebranded as the Pelicans, Charlotte took their old name back and officially became the Hornets. They're still kind of a disaster, but at least they're pretty entertaining.
No, they're building, bro. They got LaMelo, and then they got him too, and they only got Mark. I know he's probably injured, but they got Mark Williams too, right? They're kind of rebuilding. I thought, you know what I'm saying? Didn't Jordan have them, or doesn't he own them, or he used to, or something like that?
Atlanta Hawks. This team has relocated so many times, their fan base probably needs a passport. Founded in 1946 as the Buffalo Bisons in the National Basketball League. But after just 13 games, they moved to Moline, Illinois, and became the Tri-Cities Blackhawks.
Hey, shout out to Illinois! Shout out to Illinois! Damn, though, like, what? I never knew that. Then Davenport, Iowa, I never knew that, bro.
Joined the NBA in 1949, and their head coach for their first NBA season was none other than Celtics legend Red Auerbach, who ended up leaving the team and joining the Celtics after that season. The Hawks moved again in 1951, becoming the Milwaukee Hawks. Then they moved again in 1955 to
the little
St.
stick.
Louis,
you guys can't see my cursor. I gotta fix that. But the little stick figure's reaction is killing me.
Finally found success. Damn. They won their only championship in 1958, led by Bob Pettit. And they became one of the best teams of the 50s and 60s. It's worth noting they actually drafted Bill Russell, but they traded him immediately to the Celtics. At least they ended up getting a couple of Hall of Famers in the deal. In 1968, the team was sold and moved again, this time to Atlanta, because apparently they just couldn't stop moving. Since then, no titles, but they've been a constant playoff team. Throughout the 80s and 90s, they were led by Dominique Wilkins and were honestly pretty elite, but they never could get past the Pistons or Celtics. The Hawks are basically the NBA's ultimate "we tried" franchise.
Hey Meta, can I get some discussion starters for Moby Dick?
Here's some topics. Revenge.
Los Angeles Clippers, a team that has
also shout out the Hawks, man. They got I know they got Trae Young, that's his name. They got Trae Young over there. I don't know who else they got. Because I know they gave away like John Collins and them, but they got Trae Young over there. Shout out Trae Young.
Twice, been cursed for decades, and only recently stopped being a joke. Founded in 1970 as the Buffalo Braves, one of 3 expansion teams that year alongside the Cavs and Blazers. Their first owner, Paul Snyder, was a rich dude from Buffalo who didn't really know how to run a basketball team. The Braves were actually decent in the mid-70s with Bob McAdoo, but Snyder got tired of losing money and sold the team to John Y. Brown. Brown immediately started a bizarre franchise swap where he ended up trading the Braves to another owner in exchange for the Celtics. The new owner moved the team to San Diego in 1978 and renamed them the San Diego Clippers. In 1981, they were sold to Donald Sterling. Sterling was arguably the worst owner in NBA history. He quickly gained a reputation for not paying hotels and bus drivers for the team. On multiple occasions, he attempted to move the team to Los Angeles, but the league denied him. Finally, he just did it anyways. The league threatened to dissolve the franchise if he didn't return them to San Diego, but Sterling won the case in court.
This is so stupid.
Thanks to him, for over 30 years, the Clippers were the worst run team in the NBA. In 2011, they finally got Chris Paul, turning them into a contender for the first time in history. In 2014, Sterling was forced to sell the team after a racism scandal, and Steve Ballmer bought them for $2 billion. Since then, they've been legit.
Dude, for the San Diego Clip, that's what I'm saying. For a franchise to be like that and to still be worth $2 billion, bro, that's kind of crazy. Like the Clippers, no. And then that's what I'm saying. That was like whenever that was, like 10 years ago. I'm saying that was worth more because inflation and stuff and money changes. But like, dude, that's crazy for that the Clippers were worth $2 billion back then. Like, what the fuck did they do to be worth $2 billion? I know they're in like California and shit, but still, damn. The dude even said they recently just stopped being a joke. I don't think they have any chips, unless I'm mistaken. Unless Bob McAdoo, unless they're kind of Bob McAdoo. But what the fuck?
Legitimate contenders, but still haven't made an NBA Finals. Right. Golden State Warriors, a team that moved across the country and then built one of the greatest dynasties.
Oh yeah,
founded in 1946 as the Philadelphia Warriors as part of the BAA. They were owned by Peter Tyrrell. The Warriors were one of the best teams in early NBA history, winning the first ever BAA championship in 1947. In 1959, they drafted Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay. See, I wasn't sure where he was drafted. I know he played on the 76. Okay, 76ers, the Warriors, and then the Lakers too. Damn. Okay, well, I see you.
Turned them into must-watch TV.
Right.
Then in 1962, the team relocated to San Francisco after new owner Franklin Mioli decided that the Bay Area had more money and more fans. They became the San Francisco Warriors, but struggled with attendance. So in 1971, they rebranded again to Golden State Warriors to represent all of California. They won their first title in the Bay in 1975 with Rick Barry, but then spent 40 years mostly irrelevant. In 2009, they drafted Stephen Curry, and they completely changed basketball. Winning 4 championships.
Steph Curry, he changed the game of basketball, bro. Most inspirational, one of the most inspirational players ever from the three. You have to admit it. I don't care what anybody says. Most inspirational player from the three. Steph Curry.
8 years. Today, they're one of the most valuable franchises in all of sports.
Yeah,
Oklahoma City Thunder. While many teams have been stolen from their original cities, there's not a single heist that matches what happened with this franchise. Founded in 1966 as the Seattle Supersonics, named after Seattle's aerospace industry. Their first owner, Sam Schulman, was one of the NBA's first big personality owners, constantly in fights with the league office. They were terrible at first, but slowly built up into a legit team by the late 70s. And in 1979, they won their first and only NBA championship, led by Gus Williams, Dennis Johnson, and Jackk. Then in the 90s, they became elite again with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. They made the 1996 NBA Finals, but ran into peak Michael Jordan and the Bulls, so that went nowhere. Then in 2001, they were sold to a group of businessmen, including Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz. Schultz then sold them to Clay Bennett a few years later, an Oklahoma City businessman. In 2008, the NBA approved a move to OKC, and Seattle fans were rightfully furious. The team relocated and became the Thunder. Just before moving, they drafted Kevin Durant. And right after arriving in OKC, they drafted Russell Westbrook and James Harden, making them one of the best young teams ever. They made
How the hell did they get those? I mean, I get they're young, but how the hell did they get those in one draft, bro? Was James Harden James Harden? I wasn't watching back then, but damn. Like, how the hell did they get those three in one draft?
The finals in 2012, but lost to LeBron's Heat, and then proceeded to lose all their stars one by one. Today, they've rebuilt again with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a war chest of draft picks. But Sonics fans still want their team back.
They also got Chet over there, too. He should talk about Chet. YouTube Premium coming soon, bro.
Portland Trailblazers, a team that has been consistently snake-bitten by injuries and bad luck. Founded in 1970 as an expansion
Brandon
team,
Roy, Greg
their
Oden.
team name, Trailblazers, was chosen from a fan contest. Their original ownership group included Larry Weinberg, who would be president of the team for over a decade. The Blazers struggled early, but in 1977, they won their first and only NBA championship behind the late, great Bill Walton. That should have been the start of a dynasty, but Walton immediately got hurt and never fully recovered. Then in 1984, they made one of the worst draft decisions ever, passing on Michael Jordan to take Sam Bowie, a center who immediately got injured and barely played. Despite that, they were actually really good in the early 90s, led by Clyde Drexler, making the finals in 1990 and 1992. After Drexler left, they became the Jail Blazers in the early 2000s because half their roster was involved in off-court scandals. In 2006, they got Brandon Roy, who gave the team hope. Then in 2007, they had another chance to draft a superstar, but picked Greg Oden over Kevin Durant. Oden's knees immediately...
Look, okay, I can't speak because I didn't watch him in college, but that wasn't a bad pick at the time. I think he was considered to be like a good prospect or a good star. And granted, he got injured. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Don't shit on him because he got injured. He was still gonna be a good player. He just got injured, bro. So.
Immediately exploded, and Portland fans have never recovered. Roy ended up retiring early due to injuries as well. Finally, they had a solid run with Damian Lillard, but never built a true contender around him.
It wasn't a solid run, bro. They never really built anything around Damian Lillard. They got him McCollum, they got him that, but they never got him like an actual center, you know what I'm saying? A serious center. They didn't really invest in Lillard, and that's why he went to the Bucks, bro.
Now they're back to rebuilding again. Denver Nuggets, a team that spent decades as a high-scoring sideshow.
Okay, let me go back to the Blazers, bro, because now they got Scoot Henderson. Now they got DeAndre Ayton, you know what I'm saying? But now it's like Lillard's gone type shit. So it's like I don't know. I guess they I don't know. They had to give away pieces to give away Lillard, but it's like I don't know. It's like you give him a center, you get him an actual like legit shooting guard or whatever Scoot is. I don't know. I'm not specific on his position. You give him Scoot. You know what I'm saying? Right when he leaves type shit, like I don't know, and it just makes no sense. Bad business right there on the Trailblazers
striking
part.
Gold in the modern era. Founded in 1967 as the Denver Rockets in the ABA, their owner, Bill Ringsby, named the team after his trucking company, Ringsby Rockets. When the ABA started merging with the NBA in
Scoot's a point guard, my bad. Didn't know. I don't know him. I know he's newer to the league. So point guard, my bad.
1974,
What happened again?
The Rockets realized they couldn't keep their name since Houston already had the NBA's Rockets.
Right.
So they rebranded as the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets were one of 4 ABA teams invited into the NBA in 1976, bringing with them one of the flashiest players of all time, David Thompson. They won their division in both of their first 2 NBA seasons, but found
Klay Thompson's
postseason success. They had a strong run in the 80s with Alex English, then again in the 2000s when they landed Carmelo Anthony in the legendary 2003 NBA draft. But they still couldn't win in the playoffs. After Melo forced his way out in 2011, they floated in mediocrity again until they drafted Nikola Jokic with the 41st pick in 2014
he has a chip
during
too.
a Taco Bell commercial. On top of his many MVPs, Jokic also brought Denver their only championship in 2023. After 50 plus years of waiting, the Nuggets finally reached the top of the NBA, proving that sometimes patience actually pays off. Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that has spent most of its existence being really, really bad. Minnesota actually had an NBA team.
I know they've had KG, they've had Kevin Love, they got Anthony Edwards now. They've had a few players on the Timberwolves, I believe, that were good. They just haven't done shit with them.
The Minneapolis Lakers, but they moved to Los Angeles in 1960 because the owner wanted more money. After almost 30 years without a team, the NBA finally gave Minnesota another shot, granting them an expansion franchise in 1989. Their first owners, Harv Ratner and Marv Wolfenson, allowed the fans to pick the team name, where Timberwolves ended up winning. Their first 7 seasons were completely miserable, but in 1995, they finally got a franchise player, high school phenom Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
After losing in the first round of the playoffs for 7 straight years, they finally made the Western Conference Finals in 2004, but they lost to the Shaq and Kobe Lakers.
Duo.
Then, KG left in 2007, and the team went 14 years without a playoff appearance. Things might be turning around with Anthony Edwards, but trading Cat may have already screwed things up.
Which I don't know.
Utah Jazz.
That's a bad trade too. Why would you? So you guys just went to the Western Conference Finals, right? Why would you not, pick up whoever from the draft, you know what I'm saying, and then run it back with the same team? Why did you trade away Cat for Julius Randle? I'm saying, like, maybe there's moves, you know what I'm saying, maybe people have like a reason why, but I'm saying it doesn't make sense to me. You just made the Western Conference Final. Granted, you didn't win. Give it another try. Run it back. At least give them 2 tries. You know what I'm saying? They could have had a bad series, bad games. You know what I'm saying? Run it back. Why did you trade away Cat? That was a key piece. And now you gotta think about it. Cat's going off in New York. He's been going off with Brunson and them. So I don't know. They might have screwed themselves over though. But then maybe again it's because the culture is different in New York. But still, or different teams. But still, that was a weird move to me, trading away Cat when you just went to the conference final.
A team with the most inaccurate name in NBA history. Founded in 1974 as the New Orleans Jazz, which actually made sense because, New Orleans Jazz is all about jazz music. Their original owner, Sam Battistone, was an entrepreneur who didn't really know what he was doing. Despite having Pistol Pete Maravich, they never made the playoffs and lost money every year. In 1979, Battistone decided to move the team to Utah, a state with absolutely zero connection to jazz music. Instead of changing the name, they just kept it because they didn't have enough time for a league name approval ahead of the 1979 NBA season. In the 80s and 90s, they became a legit contender with John Stockton and Karl.
Yeah.
But Michael Jordan ended them twice in the NBA
Finals. Yeah, the go.
Since then, they've been consistently good, but never great, always floating between contention and Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks got really lucky, really fast, and then spent decades waiting for it to happen again. Founded in 1968 as an NBA expansion team alongside the Phoenix Suns. They were owned by Wesley Pavillon and Marvin Fishman, a pair of business guys from Milwaukee who just wanted their own sports team. After one bad season, they won the coin flip for the first pick in the 1969 draft, which landed them Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem instantly made them a contender, and by 1971, just 3 years into existence, they won their first NBA championship. But Milwaukee
but that's actually crazy. I didn't know only 3 years into their existence, they won the chip. Okay. Obviously thanks to Kareem and Oscar Robertson, but still, that's kind of cool, you know what I'm saying, for owners, you know what I'm saying, that just wanted a team from the way the video was explaining it. That's pretty cool. That's solid. Okay. That's dope.
Kareem, and in 1975, he demanded a trade to a bigger market. They sent him to the Lakers, and the Bucks immediately became irrelevant. For nearly 40 years, they were in this same state, until 2013, when they drafted a skinny, unknown Greek kid named Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis developed into one of the greatest players ever, and in 2021, he led the Bucks to their first title in 50 years. Today, the Bucks are finally a powerhouse again, proving that sometimes all you need is luck.
This video was made when Chris Middleton was still there. He was traded.
Spring has sprung, and with it comes the sneezing season. Kleenex Ultra Soft Tissue is
Detroit.
But no, shout out Damian Lillard. He has blood clots or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Not whatever, but shout out Damian Lillard. Praying for a speedy recovery. Cause shit, I want to see the Bucks be good type shit. But yeah, besides that, the Bucks, they're doing good. You know, they just picked up Lillard. Looking forward to see the future of the Bucks, you know what I'm saying, as him and Giannis grow in chemistry.
Pistons. One of the toughest, most grimy franchises in NBA history was born in a tiny Indiana town before becoming Detroit's identity. Founded in 1941 as the Fort Wayne Pistons because their owner, Fred Zollner, ran a piston manufacturing company. They joined the NBA in 1948, but quickly moved to Detroit in 1957. In the early years, they were mostly bad, but in the late 80s, they became legendary. The Bad Boy Pistons were born. With
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas, Joe
Dumars,
DeMars, Dennis
yeah.
Rodman, and Bill Laimbeer, they
Oh,
bullied
yeah.
their way to back-to-back titles in 1989 and 1990. After the Bad Boys, they went through a rough patch but rose again in the early 2000s, winning another title in 2004. Since then,
again, that was
nothing
stupid.
but pain. Although Cade Cunningham might be the one to change that.
Oh, yeah.
Indiana Pacers.
Shout out Cade Cunningham.
The Pacers were born in the ABA, and for a while, they were the kings of that league. Founded in 1967 as one of the original ABA teams, back when the ABA had red,
That's
white,
crazy because the Pacers are like, they've been irrelevant for as long as I can remember.
and blue basketballs, and was just slightly more serious than a Harlem Globetrotters game. They won 3 ABA championships in 4 years, becoming the most successful team in the league's history. When the ABA merged with the NBA in 1976, the Pacers were one of the 4 teams invited to join. But they entered the league completely broke. The NBA forced them to pay a $3.2 million entry fee, plus a fee to the ABA teams that didn't make it. They struggled for years until Reggie Miller showed up in 1987 and turned them into legit contenders. In the 90s and early 2000s, they had some great teams, but kept falling short. Then came the Malice at the Palace in 2004, which destroyed the franchise's momentum overnight. Since then, they've been in a cycle of good but not great.
Yeah, Paul
never
George.
bad enough to tank, never good enough to
Tyrese
win
Halliburton
all.
right now.
New York Knicks. One of the NBA's original teams, and somehow also one of its biggest disasters. Founded in 1946 as part of the BAA, which later merged
I'm not
into
looking like
the
that because no, not really. I mean, they had the run and they had the beef with not the beef, but you know what I'm saying? They had the run with the Bulls in the 90s and stuff like that. They weren't a bad franchise. You had Patrick Ewing, and then on top of that, now you got Brunson and Cat over there making noise. So I don't know, maybe at the time of the video, but I don't know if it's a disaster. I don't know how many chips they have. Maybe it is a disaster from that point, but I don't know. To me, historically, I wouldn't say they're like a disaster bad franchise. They've had good players.
NBA, they were named the Knickerbockers, which refers to old Dutch settlers in New York who wore baggy pants. So yes, the Knicks are technically named after pants. Owned by Ned Irish, a businessman who basically invented professional basketball in New York. In the 50s and 60s, they were bad. Like, consistently terrible. But in the 70s, they finally figured it out and won 2 NBA championships in 1970 and 1973. Then, for the next 20 years, they were pretty mid again until Patrick Ewing arrived in 1985. The 90s were their best
it's not a disaster, bro, because no matter what, you still got 2 chips, no matter what. And then on top of that, you still got Patrick Ewing. Granted, he didn't have any rings, he didn't have any chips, but you still drafted like a Hall of Fame, like top 75 NBA player. So that's what I'm saying. This is not a disaster franchise, bro. I don't know why I'm going so hard for the New York Knicks. I don't know, because I'm a fan of the sport. I don't like, franchise being dished out when they got shit to show for it. So they got theirs, bro.
At a championship,
and then now they're still doing shit.
Running into Michael Jordan. Then in 1999, they somehow made the NBA Finals as an 8 seed, but Tim Duncan crushed their dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And then the James Dolan era began. Dolan took over in 1999 and he immediately turned the Knicks into a never-ending circus of bad trades, bad contracts, and bad coaches. Well, that is until recently. They remain one of the most valuable franchises in the NBA, mostly because Madison Square Garden is so insanely legendary. Brooklyn Nets. The Nets started out as a completely different team in a completely different
they're another team that's
They were
never been
founded
good.
in 1967 as the New Jersey Americans in the ABA, or American Basketball Association, which was a rival league to the NBA. The original owner, Arthur Brown, was so incompetent that his team literally couldn't find a home arena. They tried playing at a rented ice rink, but the conditions were so bad that they had to forfeit a playoff game because the court wasn't playable. After that disaster, they moved to Long Island in 1968 and rebranded as the New York Nets. I guess rhyming with the J Jets and Mets was apparently important. The Nets became the best ABA team when they landed Julius Erving, or Dr. J, in 1973.
The GOAT before
With
MJ.
him, they won 2 ABA championships and made the league somewhat respectable. But then the ABA collapsed in 1976, and the Nets were one of the 4 teams invited into the NBA, except the NBA forced them to pay $3.2 million and fork over another $4.8 million to the Knicks just for invading their territory. Completely broke, they had to sell Dr. J to the Sixers just to survive. Unsurprisingly, they immediately became
I never
garbage.
realized why they gave up Dr. J. That's fucked up. They basically had to give him up to fund their franchise, bro. That's messed up, and that's why. Because they've always been, that's another franchise that's always been bad since I've been around, is the Nets, bro.
And moved back to New Jersey in
New Jersey,
1977.
Brooklyn Nets.
They spent the next 30 years being irrelevant. They had a brief resurgence in the early 2000s, then moved to Brooklyn in 2012 under their new Russian billionaire owner. He went all in on aging stars, completely destroyed the team's future, and eventually sold it to Joe Tsai in 2019. Today, they still don't have a championship, but at least they have a cool arena.
Baby, you blame me, and baby, I blame you. Oh, if that ain't
Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think Nets are one of those cursed franchises, because you got to think they had KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. They hardly played any games together. They didn't even make a championship. They didn't make it to a Western Conference or Eastern Conference. My bad. They didn't make it to an Eastern Conference. You know what I'm saying? They didn't really do shit. It's memorable shit. You know what I'm saying? It was cool to see them play for the games they did play together, but it was they didn't. It was for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So.
76ers. This team wasn't even born in Philadelphia. It started in Syracuse as the Syracuse Nationals in 1946. The team was founded by Dan Biasone, an Italian immigrant who literally invented the shot clock. Before him, basketball games were just teams holding the ball and stalling. He saved the sport from being unwatchable. They were one of the few independent teams that survived until the NBA was officially formed in 1949. In 1963, they moved to Philadelphia after the city's original NBA team, the Philadelphia Warriors, moved to San Francisco. More on that later. A fan contest picked their new name, the 76ers, a nod to the 1776 Declaration of Independence. They won a title in 1967 with Wilt Chamberlain, but then Wilt ditched them for the Lakers in 1968. In the 70s, they bought Dr. J from the broke Nets, which made them an instant contender again. They won another title in 1983 with Moses Malone.
And Julius Erving could have maybe played together? Hold on, did I read that right? Did I hear that right?
Original NBA team, the Philadelphia Warriors, moved to San Francisco. More on that later. A fan contest picked their new name, the 76ers, a nod to the 1776 Declaration of Independence. They won a title in 1967 with Wilt Chamberlain, but then Wilt ditched them for the Lakers in 1968. In the 70s, they bought Dr. J from the broke Nets, which made them an instant contender.
So they did play together then, right? No. Oh, in the 70s. No, so they didn't. They could have.
Another title in 1983 with Moses Malone. After that, they went through decades of suffering. Were saved by Allen Iverson in the late 90s, then became a full-blown disaster until the process era in the 2010s. Today, they still haven't won since 1983, and Sixers fans are starting to lose their patience. Toronto Raptors.
He's
Canada's second NBA team and the only one that survived. Founded in 1995 as part of the NBA's expansion into Canada alongside the Vancouver Grizzlies. Their name came from a fan contest, and since Jurassic Park had just dropped, Raptors won by a landslide. Their first owner was John Bitovi, a Canadian businessman who had zero experience running a sports team. The Raptors' first ever draft pick, Dame Damon Stoudemire, who immediately hated Toronto and left as soon as possible. The team finally became relevant when they drafted Vince Carter, who turned them into must-watch TV. But in 2004, Vince demanded a trade, torched the franchise on his way out, and left them in shambles. While Chris Bosh did his best after the Vince Carter era, the Raptors spent years in irrelevance. However, they finally built a winner when they traded for Kawhi Leonard in 2018 and actually won the title in 2019. Today, they're stuck in mid-tier limbo, but at least they have a championship banner. Los Angeles Lakers. One of the most successful franchises in sports, but they actually started in cold, snowy Minnesota. Founded in 1947 when businessmen Ben Berger and Morris Chalfin bought a failed basketball team called the Detroit Gems. They then relocated the team to Minneapolis. They named them the Lakers after Minnesota's 10,000 lakes. They won 5 championships in the early 50s behind George Mikan, the NBA's first superstar.
Why didn't they win something with Wilt and then Kobe, Shaq and shit, and then Magic and Kareem, bro? Damn, what is up with that, bro? I didn't realize Mikan had 5 rings.
In 1960, they moved
I know
to
he
Los
was the NBA's
Angeles,
first. I knew he was that. I know he had 5 rings, so that's crazy.
Money and figured he could make more in Hollywood. In the 60s and 70s, the Lakers became the NBA's glamour franchise with stars like Jerry West, Elgin
Jerry
Baylor,
West too,
and Wilt
Elgin Baylor, Wilt.
In 1979, they drafted Magic Johnson, forming the iconic Showtime Lakers, who won
with
5
Kareem, 5
championships
more
in the 80s. After a rough 90s, they reloaded in 1996 by signing Shaq and trading for Kobe Bryant, leading to 3 straight titles in the early 2000s. Kobe got them 2 more in the late 2000s. Then LeBron James arrived in 2018, leading them to another title in 2020. Today, the Lakers are still one of the biggest brands in sports, and it looks like Luka is only
And then Luka's gonna take over, bro. He's gonna take over, dude. That's crazy. Lakers are a crazy ass franchise.
Wouldn't settle for Bateman when there's Batman.
Phoenix Suns, a team that has been great many times, but never lucky enough to win all.
Steve
Founded
Nash.
in 1968 as part of an NBA expansion wave alongside the Bucks. Their first owner, Carl Eller, was a media mogul who wanted to bring big-time sports to Arizona. The team name Suns wasn't the top fan vote. The leading option was actually Scorpions, but the team decided it sounded too scary. The Suns were mediocre at first, but in 1975, they made a surprise run to the NBA Finals where they lost to the Celtics. In the 90s, they became elite again, led by Charles Barkley.
Yeah,
but they
Charles
lost
Barkley,
in
right,
the 1993 NBA Finals to Michael Jordan's Bulls.
Of course.
In the 2000s, head coach Mike D'Antoni revolutionized basketball with the 7 seconds or less offense, led by Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, and Sean Marion. Despite being one of the most exciting teams ever, they never won a championship. After a long rebuild, they finally returned to the finals in 2021, led by Devin Booker and Chris Paul. But they lost to the Bucks. They're still ringless, but always a fun team to watch. Sacramento Kings.
And it's like now they got KD, but he's getting ready to strap up somewhere else. All the teams want him. I'm hearing Spurs. I've heard Lakers again. I've been hearing on social media and sports apps. Spurs, Lakers, all the other teams want him. So it's going to be interesting offseason for KD.
More homes than a traveling circus. Founded in 1945 as the Rochester Royals, a team in the NBL before joining the NBA in 1949. In 1951, they won their only championship. In 1957, they moved to Cincinnati, where they were the Cincinnati Royals. They soon acquired Oscar Robertson, one of the best players of all time. In 1972, they moved again to Kansas City, but had to change their name because Kansas City already had a baseball team called the Royals. So they became the Kansas City Omaha Kings. Yes, Omaha, because they also played some home games in Omaha, Nebraska. By 1975, they dropped the Omaha from their name. Finally, in 1985, they moved to Sacramento. In the early 2000s, they were actually incredible, led by Chris Webber, Peja Stojakovic, and Mike Bibby. But they got screwed by one of the worst officiated series in NBA history. After that, they spiraled into 16 years of pure.
And that ref should be punished, low-key, for that. If there's like proof of like rigging the game or stuff like that, there should be punishment or like. And I'm talking legal, bro, because like that, I don't know, that like, because that weighs on someone, bro, not winning that championship or not like getting that, you know what I'm saying? So, and I get it was Kobe and Shaq, but still, bro, if you rig someone out of a ring, bro, that's not cool because they go home and think about that tonight, you know what I'm saying? Because they are passionate about the shit. So it's wrong, bro. It's wrong. I know it doesn't seem like a big ass deal to you or to people, but it's wrong, bro. Because imagine if it was you. Exactly.
Misery, setting the record for the longest playoff drought in the league's history. They finally made the playoffs again in 2023, proving that even the most cursed teams
but Darren Fox
can
is
turn
left.
it around. Miami Heat. This is a team that went from irrelevant expansion team to NBA powerhouse faster than pretty much anyone. They were founded in 1988 as part of a league-wide expansion into new markets. Miami had basically no basketball history, but the NBA was betting on South Beach being a good destination.
It's Miami. It's a big market. Why not? Why not have a basketball team down there? It's Miami.
Their original owner was Ted Arison, who also owned Carnival
Cruise, yeah.
For the first few years, they were completely irrelevant. Then in 1995, they hired Pat Riley as team president, and the entire franchise changed overnight. In 2003, they drafted Dwayne Wade, and in 2006, he led them to their first championship alongside Shaquille O'Neal. Then in 2010, Pat Riley pulled off one of the biggest free agency moves in NBA history by getting LeBron and Chris Bosh to team up with Wade. They ended up winning back-to-back titles in 2012 and 2013, making Miami one of the most successful teams of the 21st century. Today, the Heat are still one of the best-run franchises in the NBA and a destination team for superstars. Orlando Magic. This team has had more superstar breakups than a reality TV show. They were also founded in 1988 as part of the NBA expansion wave. Their first owner, William DuPont III, came from a wealthy banking family that had zero experience in sports, but really wanted an NBA team. In 1992, they got insanely lucky and won the first pick in the NBA draft, taking Shaquille O'Neal. Within 3 years, the Magic went from expansion team to NBA Finals contender, pairing Shaq with Penny Hardaway. In 1995, they made their first Finals appearance, but got swept by the Rockets. Then, in 1996, Shaq left for the Lakers, and Orlando collapsed instantly. They rebuilt and got Dwight Howard in 2004, which led to another Finals appearance.
He was a beast too. Dwight Howard, he doesn't get enough credit because he is kind of cheesy and you know what I'm saying, shout out to Dwight Howard, but he's kind of cheesy on social media and shit, but like back in the day, like he was good.
In 2009, but then Dwight left too. Since then, they've been in rebuild mode and things seem to finally be shaping up.
With Paulo and Wagner,
A 3% IRA match with Robinhood Gold. The reckoning has commenced.
Planning Nana's birthday? Design a party to remember with the new Microsoft 365, now with AI.
Washington Wizards, a team with one of the strangest histories and name changes in NBA history. Founded in 1961 as the Chicago Packers, but it turned out the people in Chicago weren't huge fans of the team name Packers. So they renamed to the Chicago Zephyrs after one season. In 1963, they moved to Baltimore and rebranded as the Baltimore Bullets. Then, in 1973, they moved to Washington, D.C. and became the Capitol Bullets. But then they changed their name again in 1974 to the Washington Bullets. In 1978, they won their only NBA championship behind Wes Unseld and Alvin Hayes.
Alvin Hayes,
In 1997, owner Abe Paulin changed the team's name from Bullets to Wizards because he was concerned about the violent connotation with bullets. In the 2000s, they briefly became fun again when Gilbert Arenas showed up, but his career imploded due to injuries and locker room incidents. John Wall and Bradley Beal also gave them some hope, but injuries ruined that as well. They've been in basketball limbo ever since, mostly just existing without making much noise. Dallas Mavericks.
Did they Bullets too at one point in time, or am I missing that? I thought they were.
Mavericks. A team that started as a gift for a rich guy's wife became a global powerhouse thanks to one legendary owner and a German superstar. Founded in 1980, the name Mavericks was chosen in a fan vote because of the popularity of the TV show Maverick. The team's first owner, Don Carter, wanted to buy the team as a gift for his wife. He also wore a cowboy hat at all times. The Mavericks were actually good early on, building a strong team in the 80s, but then they fell into complete irrelevance for most of the 90s.
Dirk? No?
Then, in 1998, they acquired Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash. A few years later, Mark Cuban bought the team, immediately transforming the Mavs into a modern and flashy franchise. After years of playoff failures, Dirk and the Mavs finally won their first NBA championship in 2011, pulling off one of the great.
And he, not only like the greatest win in the finals, but he also he also had a tough playoff run that whole series. So shout out Dirk, that was a well-earned championship, bro.
Greatest underdog runs ever by beating the Miami Heat. It looked like they were going to be set for another 20 years when they traded him away. Luka, but after Mark Cuban sold his controlling stake in the team, they traded Luka to the Lakers. Time will tell what happens to the franchise now. Houston Rockets.
Granted, I'm interested to see because the Mavericks, we're seeing everyone's injured, bro, but if everyone, even their big men are injured, but if everyone's healthy, bro, the Mavericks can make like a last minute run. Well, actually no, because Kyrie's only in his mid-30s. He's not even like late 30s yet. Anthony Davis is damn near 29, early 30s. I think 30, 31. They can make, and then they have a supporting cast now, because last year in the finals, or was that last year or 2 years ago, whenever they were in the finals, they didn't have a good supporting cast. I think that was last year. They didn't have a good supporting cast, but now they got some bench players, you know what I'm saying? Maybe not this year, because they're recovering from injuries, but maybe next year, bro, they could try to sneak in a finals run, and maybe I'm just yapping, but I don't know. I know they're kind of old, but I can see it. If Anthony Davis plays the top of his game and so does Kyrie, maybe, bro, but I don't know. We got to see, though, because there's a lot of good teams now, and especially the young teams, too. So, I don't know. It'd be tough, but maybe.
A team that started out as a failure before moving halfway across the country. Founded in 1967 as the San Diego Rockets, named after the city's growing aerospace industry. Their first owner, Robert Breitbard, quickly ran out of money. After just 4 seasons, the Rockets were sold and moved to Houston in 1971. Their first real superstar was Moses Malone, who carried them to their first finals appearance in 1981. But then he got traded for nothing because they couldn't afford him. In 1984, they drafted Hakeem Olajuwon, who became one of the best centers ever. In 1994 and 1995, Hakeem led the Rockets to back-to-back championships, taking advantage of the NBA's brief Jordan-less era. Since then, the Rockets have gone through multiple eras, including the Yao Ming and T-Mac years, and the James Harden ISO ball years. But they haven't won a title since.
And that's I feel like they really didn't surround anyone with Harden, though. I know they had who was on the Rockets with Harden? That's what I'm trying to remember. They never surrounded him with another big all-star, if I can remember right. Maybe I'm not remembering right. But I don't think they ever surrounded, the Rockets never ever surrounded Harden with a big, it was only, I was like, who do they got? James Harden. Maybe I'm forgetting. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Maybe I'm not, but I feel like they never gave him a big Rockets, another star.
Rebuilt themselves again and have one of the most promising young cores in the
NBA. Yeah, now it looks good.
Memphis Grizzlies. A team that should have never existed in Vancouver and found success in the aftermath.
He said should have never existed.
Founded in 1995 as part of the NBA's attempt to expand into Canada, their first owner was Arthur Griffiths. The Vancouver experiment was a disaster from the start. Bad attendance, terrible teams, and no basketball culture yet. In 2001, after just 6 seasons, the Grizzlies relocated to Memphis, where they immediately became a much better fit.
Which was smart, because Memphis, I think, man, Memphis, it's a booming city, bro, and why not bring a basketball to a city in the South, you know what I'm saying, in a big market.
Most of the 2000s, they were pretty mid, even though they had Pau Gasol. They ended up trading Pau to the Lakers for a package that included Pal's younger brother, Mark. By 2010, they had built the legendary Grit and Grind Grizzlies with Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol, and Mike Conley Jr. They were one of the most respected teams of the early 2010s. Today, they've moved into a new era with Ja Morant, proving that Memphis was the right home for them all along. New Orleans Pelicans, a team that has been saved by the NBA multiple times and somehow keeps rebuilding. Founded in 2002 when the Charlotte Hornets relocated to New Orleans because their owner, George Shinn, was ran out of town. When they moved, they kept their name and became the New Orleans Hornets. In 2011, their owner bailed, and the NBA literally bought the team to prevent it from relocating again. They won the draft lottery and got Anthony Davis, finally giving them...
I didn't know that. Damn, fresh off of that, they got Anthony Davis? Damn.
Franchise player. In 2013, when the Bobcats in Charlotte decided to rebrand as the Hornets again, New Orleans changed their name to the Pelicans to reflect Louisiana's state bird. They never built a contender around Anthony Davis. They didn't. That's what I'm saying. So he went to the Lakers in 2019 and they had to start over. Today, they're just hoping Zion Williamson stays healthy long enough to make them relevant. San Antonio Spurs, a team that started in the ABA, survived through chaos, and built the best dynasty in modern NBA history. Founded in 1967 as the Dallas Chaparrals in the ABA. After a few seasons of nobody caring about the team, the owners basically gave the team away to a group of San Antonio businessmen who rebranded them as the Spurs in 1973. In 1976, they were one of 4 ABA teams invited into the NBA, but they were broke and not taken seriously. George Gervin was their first superstar and led the team for nearly a decade. Then in 1987, they drafted David Robinson. Robinson made the team a contender nearly every season, but their playoff struggles continued. Then he got injured for nearly a whole year, causing the Spurs to stink. This led them to winning the 1997 draft lottery, where they selected Tim Duncan. With Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and coach Greg Popovich, the Spurs won 5 NBA championships. After Duncan retired, it looked like Kawhi Leonard could lead the team for years to come, but he forced his way out and the Spurs had to start over. Now, they've got Victor Wembanyama, and it looks like they're on their way to building another dynasty.
He's had issues too with his health and stuff. But yeah, they got Victor Wembanyama. The future looks bright for him if he stays healthy. Hopefully, want to stay healthy. Yeah. All right, and that seems like that. All right, so yeah, that's the birth of every NBA team explained. So let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But yeah, that's going to do it. Peace.